Okay, this is our first lesson of the year, and it's on integers. So if you look at our learning target up on the top, we can identify integers using a number line. So the first thing you can do is you can click on these three links here, and what I want you to do if you click on those is I want you to sort the numbers in this link as positive or negative. And then on this one here, I want you to sort the ones that are into whole numbers, like if it's a whole or not a whole. And then here I want you to try to figure out what numbers are integers and what number are not, and then hopefully you'll figure out the definition from that sort. The definition for an integer is the set of positive and negative whole numbers. So what that means is any number that's positive or negative, so has a plus or a minus sign, and doesn't have a decimal or a fraction with it, that is an integer. So I'm going to fill in our example box with a whole bunch of different ones. So all I have to do is name a whole. So I'll just name one: 3, -2, 5, 99, -99, 1,000. So you see you can name any whole number that you want to. Notice how I didn't say like 1/2 or 0.3 repeating or pi. It has to be a whole number, no decimals, no fractions. It makes calculating with them fairly simple because we don't have to deal with the fractions or decimals. Well, non-examples would be fractions and decimals, so let's name some. So I'm going to go 0.2. That's a decimal, doesn't count, not an integer. Well, how about 1/4? That's a fraction, not an integer. Mixed numbers aren't integers either. 3 and 1/8, that would be a fraction or a mixed number, not an integer. And then I'm going to throw pi in here because that's a special number that we're going to talk about later. So when we go back and look at our definition, the set of positive and negative whole numbers, we have positive and negative wholes like right there, and then non-examples would be fractions. So let's go down and let's look at each one of these. Determine if each number is an integer. Explain your reasoning. On your sheet, I would like you to write your explanation, full complete sentence here. I'm just going to say it out loud because I'm talking. So we have the number 3, and 3 is an integer. And your reason would be 3 is an integer because it is a positive whole number. No decimal, no fraction. Okay, let's look at number 2. Number 2, we have -1/4. Well, it is a negative, but 1/4 is a fraction, and that means it is not an integer. So I'm going to write not an integer. And then you would write down a reason, and a really good answer would be -1/4 is not an integer because it is a fraction. 2 more. We have -5, and again, that's an integer. It's a whole number. So we're going to write integer, and our reason would be there is not a decimal or a fraction, or it's a negative whole number, so it counts. And last but not least is 0, and this is a tricky one. It's neither positive nor negative, but it is whole. And what we're looking for are whole numbers, any whole number. So 0 counts, so 0 is an integer. So we actually have to come up here and we have to like mess up our definition a little bit. And you see how it says the set of positive and negative whole numbers? We need to add a little note. We need to add the note and 0. It's like the one little exception to the rule. It is an integer. I'm going to add it to our example right here just so we have it written in there also. So again, integers, positive and negative whole numbers, no decimals, no fractions. Okay, here's our next part. We want to write a positive or negative integer that represents the situation. So here's our first situation. Hayden climbs 900 feet up a mountain. So this is up a mountain. So we're going up, and that would tell you that we're going in a positive direction. And so this word right here, this word up, is telling us this would be positive 900. So you could write plus 900. However, when you're writing integers, you never write the plus sign, so we would actually just write 900, and that's positive. Okay? Nyla owes Mr. Lombard $24. Well, our word is owes right there. That word's telling us she's like lost the $24, which means it's being taken away or subtracted from her, which means she has negative $24. And you don't have an option for how you write this. It's just negative 24. She's down in the hole, minus $24. George loses 5 points for being tardy. You see this loses. That's again like subtraction, so he's going 5 points in the hole. That integer would be minus 5. Okay? And then the last thing is the temperature is 75 degrees outside. Well, that's like not negative 75, it's not below 0. That is positive 75. So you could write plus 75, or you could write just plain 75. We don't usually write that plus sign. So that's one thing I expect you to be able to do too. So to summarize the first page, you should be able to tell me if a number is an integer, yes or no. And then you should also be able to write one from a situation to represent a value in real life. On to the back page. So here we're going to compare in order, and we're going to use a number line for that. So I do want you to mark your answers on the number line, and I want you to put greater than or less than. So let's mark negative 2 on the number line. Negative 2 is right there. Okay? Positive 3 is right there. Positives are always bigger than negatives, because if you have $3, that's better than owing $2. Well, alligator eats the bigger number. So it looks like this. Alligator, rar, eats the bigger number. Alligator doesn't want to eat negative 2 people. It'd rather eat positive 3 people. And 3 is to the right on the number line. Well, this is how we say it too. We would read this like this. Negative 2, that's a less than symbol. Negative 2 is less than 3, is how we say that. Number 2. It's a little trickier when they're both negatives, because a lot of people have the instinct to say that that's bigger because 5 is bigger than 1. However, the rule is the bigger the negative, it's actually the smaller the number, and we'll mark it on the number line to show you why. We have negative 5 right there, and we have negative 1 right there. If an alligator was eating people and it wanted to stay as full as possible, it'd rather puke up 1 person than 5 people. This would be like more food. Negative 1 is further to the right too. The further the number is to the right, the bigger it is. So negative 1 is definitely bigger than negative 5. Alligator eats the negative 1. In the way we say this is, negative 5 is less than negative 1. If the sign was this one, you would say greater than, and I could put equal to. Last but not least, ordering. Well, negative 9 is the smallest of those 4 because it's the furthest left. So that's coming first. I like to cross it out now because it's finished. I have 7, 3, and 0. Well, 7 is there, 3 is there, and 0 is there. 0 is the furthest to the left, so it's smallest. Cross it out. Now we have 3 and 7. Well, 3 is less than 7, so 3 comes next. And 7 is the biggest, and I like to cross out as I go. So that's the order from least to greatest. Negatives are always smaller than positives. Okay, so we have our last one. We have 8, 4, negative 7, negative 1. The negatives are the smallest two. And we have negative 7 and negative 1. Negative 7 is there. Negative 1 is there. That is smaller because it's further to the left. So negative 7 goes first. Cross it out. That leaves us with negative 1. Cross it out. And now we have 4 and 8. 4 is smaller than 8, it comes first, and there is your list. So again, I do want you to use the number line. It helps. Like it helps put them in order from least to greatest. A lot of you guys will be really good at visualizing it, but I want you to mark it just for practice. You have 2 assignments for this lesson. One is B5, comparing and ordering integers. And then I want you to do the blue assignment on this. If you have any questions, let me know. Other than that, see you, bye.